When most people hear the word cancer, the first image that often comes to mind is a mysterious, rogue mutation of our DNA, a genetic glitch that spirals out of control and threatens our lives. For decades, this has been the prevailing narrative. Cancer is, at its core, a genetic disease driven by inherited or spontaneous mutations. But Dr. Evelyn Reed, a renowned cell biologist and one of the leading experts in metabolic science at Greenwood University, is challenging that long-held belief. In her office, lined with stacks of research papers, models of cellular pathways, and framed images of pioneers in medical science, she leans forward with an unmistakable passion in her voice. Cancer isn't just a genetic mistake, she explains. It's a disease of metabolism. And if we understand how cancer cells produce and use energy, we can create conditions in the body that make it extremely difficult for them to survive, let alone grow. Dr. Reed's groundbreaking theory builds on the work of Dr. Otto Warburg, a Nobel Prize-winning German scientist of the early 20th century, whose research uncovered a strange quirk in how cancer cells process energy. While most of the medical community eventually shifted its focus toward genetics, Dr. Reed has spent decades digging deeper into the metabolic angle, and her findings are both fascinating and empowering. They suggest that cancer cells have specific needs for survival needs we can target through dietary and lifestyle choices. In other words, while we can't control every factor in life, we can influence the internal environment of our bodies in ways that make it less hospitable to cancer. 1. What cancer needs to survive? The 7 critical factors. Reed's research identifies 7 key elements that fuel cancer's growth. Think of them as the 7 nutrients or conditions that cancer cells depend on. Remove or reduce these, and you make life much harder for cancer. Ignore them, and you may unintentionally be rolling out a welcome mat. 1.1 Glucose, sugar. Cancer's favorite meal. Sugar is to cancer cells what gasoline is to a race car. It's their fuel of choice. Healthy cells primarily use oxidative phosphorylation, a process in the mitochondria, to generate energy efficiently, especially in the presence of oxygen. But cancer cells, they largely bypass this system. This phenomenon, known as the Warburg effect, was first documented in the 1920s. Otto Warburg discovered that even in oxygen-rich conditions, cancer cells prefer glycolysis, a rapid but inefficient way of producing energy that relies heavily on glucose. Dr. Reed explains why this matters. Cancer cells consume glucose at an alarming rate. They ferment sugar to produce energy, and they're remarkably inefficient at it. So they need a constant supply. If your diet keeps blood sugar elevated through sugar, refined carbs, or frequent snacking, you're essentially creating an endless buffet for them. She points to modern eating habits as a key culprit: sugary drinks, pastries, breakfast cereals loaded with added sugars, and white bread made from refined flour. Even foods marketed as healthy can be deceptive. A fruit smoothie with added sugar or a granola bar loaded with syrup can spike blood sugar in the same way as a candy bar. 1 point to chronic inflammation. Fertile soil for cancer. Inflammation is part of the body's defense system. It's how we respond to injury or infection. But when inflammation becomes chronic, it's like leaving the on switch stuck. The constant presence of inflammatory signals creates a perfect environment for cancer cells to thrive. Dr. Reed uses a gardening analogy. If you think of cancer as weeds, chronic inflammation is like the over-fertilized, unkept soil they love to grow in. Sources of chronic inflammation in American life are everywhere: processed foods loaded with seed oils high in omega-6 fatty acids, diets low in anti-inflammatory omega-3s, sedentary lifestyles, and long-term exposure to environmental toxins. Add in the stress many Americans face daily, and you have a recipe for an inflamed, vulnerable body. 1.3 Chemicals and carcinogens. Invisible assassins. Our modern environment is saturated with chemicals, many of which are mutagenic, capable of damaging DNA. These can come from processed foods containing artificial additives, preservatives, and coloring agents, pesticide residues on non-organic produce, industrial pollutants in air and water, plastics that leach endocrine-disrupting chemicals, Like BPA, Dr. Reed warns that small, daily exposures add up. It's not one soda or one bag of chips that's the problem, it's the cumulative load over years that overwhelms the body's detox systems. 1 point for oxidative stress, rusting from the inside out inside our cells. Free radicals and stable molecules are constantly being produced as a byproduct of metabolism. In normal amounts, they're manageable, but when their levels soar and outpace the body's antioxidant defenses, oxidative stress occurs, damaging cellular components, including DNA. Dr. Reed likens oxidative stress to rusting on the inside. Over time, this damage increases the risk of mutations that can trigger cancer development. Factors that worsen oxidative stress include smoking, excessive alcohol, pollution, overcooked or charred foods, and even chronic psychological stress. 1.5 Weakened immune system. Losing the body's security for the immune system is like a vigilant security team, constantly patrolling for abnormal cells and destroying them before they can cause harm. But when it's weakened by poor nutrition, lack of sleep, chronic stress, or illness, it becomes less effective. Dr. Reed explains every day, your body likely produces small numbers of mutated cells. A strong immune system catches and destroys them. A weak one lets them slip through. 1.6 Hormonal imbalance. Fueling the fire. Some cancers are hormone-driven, meaning their growth is influenced by hormones like estrogen or insulin. Dr. Reed is particularly concerned about insulin, the hormone that regulates blood sugar. High insulin levels, often the result of diets rich in sugar and refined carbs, can stimulate cell growth and inflammation. She notes, when insulin is chronically elevated, it's like pouring gasoline on the cancer fire. 1.7 Gut microbiome. Imbalanced dysbiosis. Weakening the front linear gut isn't just for digestion. It's a central hub of the immune system. A healthy gut microbiome acts as a barrier, preventing harmful substances from entering the bloodstream and supporting immune function. Dysbiosis, or an imbalance in gut bacteria, can arise from processed food, artificial sweeteners, antibiotics, and stress. When the gut barrier is compromised, inflammation increases and immune defenses weaken, creating yet another pathway for cancer to take hold. 2. The fallacy of the magic pill. Dr. Reed is quick to dispel a common myth that a single superfood or supplement can defeat cancer. It doesn't matter how many blueberries or kale smoothies you drink if you're still consuming soda, processed meats, and pastries daily. She says, you can't out-supplement a bad diet. Her message is clear: before adding in cancer fighting foods, the first step must be to eliminate the daily offenders. Otherwise, it's like trying to drain a bathtub with the faucet still running. 3. The Warburg effect. Why sugar is cancer's kryptonite. Dr. Reed dives deeper into the Warburg effect, explaining that cancer cells' reliance on glycolysis is not just unusual, it's a vulnerability. Healthy cells can switch between different fuels: glucose, fat in the form of ketones, and amino acids depending on availability. Cancer cells, however, are far less adaptable. Their damaged mitochondria limit their ability to use ketones effectively. This is why some therapeutic diets like ketogenic diets or periods of intermittent fasting can theoretically starve cancer cells while nourishing healthy ones. By reducing glucose availability, these approaches remove cancer's primary fuel source. For the food playbook, what to eat and what to avoid. Reed's dietary recommendations are as much about removing harmful foods as adding beneficial ones. 1. Foods to eat: healthy fats, olive oil, coconut oil, avocados, almonds, and walnuts. These provide stable energy without feeding cancer cells. Natural proteins: grass-fed beef, pasture-raised poultry, and wild-caught fish like salmon and sardines for omega-3. South. Low-starch vegetables: spinach, kale, broccoli, cauliflower, zucchini, bell peppers. Fermented foods: yogurt, unsweetened, sauerkraut, kimchi. Miso, feeding healthy gut bacteria. Spices and herbs: garlic, turmeric, ginger, anti-inflammatory and antioxidant. Low-sugar fruits, berries, pomegranates, citrus, fiber-rich and nutrient-dense. Supportive beverages: green tea, coffee, and mineral-rich bone broth. To foods to Avoid sugar and refined carbs, white bread, pasta, pastries, soda, processed foods, packaged snacks, fast food, processed meats, artificial sweeteners, aspartame, sucralose, saccharin. Alcohol, especially excessive intake, strains the liver. High-heat cooked foods, fried, grilled, or charred meats, low-fat products, often filled with sugar and artificial additives. 5. Defense over often sign closing. Dr. Reed emphasizes a powerful truth. Cancer prevention is 90% about defense, about creating a body environment where cancer struggles to survive. Her advice is refreshingly simple. Eat real food. If it needs a long ingredient list, it's probably not real. Choose whole foods, fruits, vegetables, unprocessed meats, nuts, seeds, and keep harmful substances out of your body.